All right, welcome back to the Martin Take. It has been a few weeks, but we are back on here with today's artist, Judah and the Lion. Fair, interesting band. I'm going to get into a little bit their style later on. However, intro of artist is first, and we will jump into that. Judah and the Lion are an American alt-rock/folk band from Nashville, Tennessee that was formed in 2011. The band consists of two members, Judah Akers, which is where Judah and the Lion comes from, who is their lead singer and also plays guitar, and then also Brian MacDonald, who plays the mandolin and backup vocals. They're an interesting band. So, Brendon, I'm going to be kind of curious before we jump into style. Give me kind of your overall thoughts of the band, and then we'll kind of jump into style where I have some interesting kind of thoughts on them. I'm very interested to see what you have to say as well.
Yeah, definitely an interesting sounding band. They kind of, I think they ride the line in a lot of like the alternative music I listen to, where they're, I don't know, yeah, like they have some of the folk style, they have some of the alternative rock, and they kind of have, we'll talk about some of their own styling going on, but definitely an interesting one that I kind of doesn't really sit in any one spot for me, and they kind of have just popped up here and there throughout my listening over the years. And yeah, I think neither one of us, it's like been a band that we've had a lot of dedicated listening in. It was kind of interesting to like sit and actually go through their stuff for me.
Yep. Very, very interesting. They are just a very unique band themselves. So kicking it to a little bit albums. So we have identified their four main albums. I'm going to go over them here. First one came out in 2014, which was Kids These Days. Their second album, Folk, Hop and Roll, 2016. Kind of a clever little name there. Pep Talks in 2019. And then an album that got released this year in Revival. So four albums. So talking a little bit about these albums, they are all unique to themselves. They are all different. I'm trying to think of how to place it because they are all very unique and very different sounds in every one. And it's not like, bands honestly have like trajectories that they're going on, like more pop or more folk or whatever. I mean, bands typically don't go more folk. However, these albums are all over the place. Like, you have Kids These Days, which is kind of more of a slower album than Folk, Hop, and Roll, which is definitely more of a folk, alt, rock. And then Pep Talks is more pop, rock, and roll. And then Revival, which is a little bit all over the place, too. So,
yeah.
Do you have any strong feelings? I have them ranked. So,
yep. Yeah, I have a ranking.
If you give me your...
just up front, like to continue with what you're saying there, yeah, they don't seem to have a natural progression. Like we've talked before, like sometimes they often will start more indie sound or folk sound or whatever, then they usually, most bands tend to go more mainstream, but they're kind of, I mean, from, Kids These Days, I think is the outlier as their first album, but the rest of them all like could be versions of a mainstream band, but there's not really a progression that leads to it, and they each kind of sound a little bit or all over the place compared to the rest. But go down and talk through yours.
So as normal, actually, well, not normal as of lately. Normally I would rank my 1 through 4 top albums, my favorite album. As of lately, the last artist we've done, I've not ranked them like that. So, and this artist is not any different. So at number 1, or actually number 4, I'm going to go 4 to 1, and then you should do the same. At number 4, I have their first album, Kids These Days, from 2014. Fine album. I mean, it's not like I hated it. It just wasn't a killer album in my opinion. I just listened to it and I was like, oh, it's done. I always listen to music while I'm working, and it just kind of flew by. So it just not that memorable. Number 3, I have Revival, their latest one. Very good. Loved it. Really, really good. I have a couple of songs, like 3 songs that I really loved from it, and the rest of them are just kind of like good songs. Number 2, I have Pep Talks. Pep Talks is a good one. A lot more just loud, not aggressive, just not angry, just loud music. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on Pep Talks.
I can talk about. I'll let you finish, but I can talk about it in the moment because that's something that's kind of a runner with them.
Yeah, it's just a very loud album. It's the best way to describe it. And number 1, Folk, Hop, and Roll. I feel like this is their classic album, one of their more traditional, what kind of got them famous a little bit, and some of my favorite songs, more what I grew up on, and that's just kind of, or with them per se. So I really just love this album. So yeah, basically their first album is number 4, and then it kind of back ranks 1, 2, 3 from their 2014 to their latest album. So overall, good music. I mean, their albums aren't bad. There's just no consistency at all, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I'd be really interested to see where you have these ranks because I have let's see what you got.
Yeah, and another thing with, like we're saying, as far as it kind of feeling a bit all over the place, is at the same time there is a through line as far as I guess it just maybe comes back to instruments and vocals, but like they do sound similar. Like every song you're like, oh yeah, that's a Judah and the Lion song, but the album styles are just completely different. But for me, I put Kids These Days at the bottom. Okay,
so same as me.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. I kind of put it as like, it's their first full album. They had Sweet Tennessee as an EP before that, which, a little bit of similar veins there between those two. But kind of like obviously a band's first full album, it's a little more toned down. It has more of the influence of the like area they grew up in and stuff, or at least the culture and stuff they would have grown up in. But then I put Pep Talks at number 3.
Okay.
Which I've enjoyed that one. Like I've listened to that since that one like came out. I was listening to that album some, and so it's a solid album. Yeah, like you said, a bit loud, and that is kind of something that I have liked and not liked with them. As I do like some of the energy they have, but sometimes, especially with vocals combined with instruments, like it just comes across kind of noisy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with
and
that.
Especially on Pep Talks, which it has some styling that isn't quite like just music taste that isn't quite to my taste. And then number 2, Folk Hop and Roll.
Really? Okay.
I understand why you put it number 1. But I think it has some really good songs on it. But I put Revival at number 1. It's just since that one came out this year, I've replayed it multiple times, and like again, with Judah and the Lion, it's not one of my number 1 bands. So like it's not too often that I specifically think of playing their music, but this year, ever since hearing Revival, I'll like be like, oh, I want to listen to that album again. I'll just play the whole album straight through. It has a brighter sound, which it kind of plays to my liking. But that's why I put it number 1, but I totally understand why someone would put Folk Hop and Roll as number 1, because that one's really good. And yeah, like you said, kind of a classic of them.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So you had a pretty similar lineup to me. I mean, obviously you had Revivals just two rungs higher than I had it, which I think it's a good album, for sure.
Yeah.
So, cool. Well, yeah, we kind of have that wrapped up. Definitely 4 very unique albums for sure. So let's kick it to our top 5s, shall we, Brendon? And, I don't know why this would be something I should remember. I feel like I should remember who went first last time, but I always forget. This is something that I'm good at remembering.
You did go first last time,
okay.
Because I wanted to go last, which it wasn't the correct order, but yeah.
So, let's have you go first this time. I wouldn't mind going last because my number 1 I could probably talk a little bit about. So, yeah, we should make predictions first.
Yes,
because I'm gonna say we have 1. I don't have much confidence in this. I don't know which way you're going to go with this. I went quite a different direction. So I'm going to say 1. I'm going to go with 1, but surprise me.
Okay. I mean, you saying that now has me intrigued, but I was going to say 2.
Okay.
I think I'll stick with that because I think there's 2 on here that, I mean, at least one of those I hope would be on, and I think unless you want a real different direction.
Here's my thing. My number 6 song, I think you're going to have it your number 1. So that's another prediction. I'm saying we have 1 line, and I think my number 6 is your number 1. So that's why I'm saying 1. I would have said maybe 2.
If you say that, I'll say 1 then. I'll go with 1.
Okay, so we're going to agree with 1.
Song.
Well, it's going to be interesting because every time we go low, sometimes we also have like 4 that line up. I know 2 of these you're not going to have, so we'll see. But yeah, let's kick it to number 5 and see what happens.
Yeah. All right. For my number 5, I have Be Here Now from their latest album.
Took the boys for a walk. Just a normal Saturday. And I found a bed of roses.
Okay, good song. I had it at 23.
Yeah, that's kind of right in the spot where I mean, especially with the way you rank albums, where I could see you having that. But this is it's a good stable song, solid vocals, solid beat. Like and what we just talked about with like them yelling and stuff and the kind of the noisier sounds. Like I think that works for them a lot of the time, and in this case, I think it does. This whole album being brighter, I think is a good contrast in the music and stuff. And yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, especially in the chorus, that song, it's pretty loud and aggressive. I mean, it's a good song. It just, kind of staple what they are. I think besides their style, I think you could throw them as just a loud band on random occasions.
Yeah, and with that chorus, I think that chorus is, I mean, that's kind of what makes it again for me, but like that chorus is really cool, and like the idea of time passing and like the speed of yesterday's gone, tomorrow's here, you ain't gotta hunt it down, like all of that, and then like the living in the present. Yeah, it was an interesting one. I actually threw around my number 5. Even today, I was kind of tossing around, what my number 5 was going to be between. I think it was 3 songs. But yeah, ended up with this one.
Nice. That's an interesting song you chose there. So at my number 5, I have "Scream" from the album Revival 2022.
They say that death and taxes are the 2 sure things in life, and it's a filthy pattern when we come to realize they were right.
So this song is a little bit more intense than some of their other songs, but what I really love about the song, and my next 3 songs, my 5th, 4th, and 3rd song all have the same vibe of the song, and they also are depressing more songs, and they all are kind of, I like them for the choruses. Anyways, the song starts out, 2 things are for certain in life, and that's death and taxes, and the song kind of the song's basically talking about you just want to scream because life is just super intense, and all you do is pay taxes and die, which if you just take it as that sounds really depressing, but the chorus in this is just really good. This chorus starts out yelling lonely, then goes into this planet tends to get so woe is me, which is basically saying the world is intense and the singer's just lonely and depressed, which is kind of sad.
This planet tends to get so woe is me, and round we go so wrong.
A little bit of a different one. It's more intense than I like, and it's not really a vibing song, but it's kind of more just like makes you think and be like, why, do you have value, and are you finding that, which is kind of what the song's talking about, which I think is good just to contemplate some of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like that one. It wasn't on my top 15, but yeah, I agree that it's a very impactful song. And yeah, definitely on the heavier side. But again, this whole album, I like, there's something, I think it like makes their style of being louder easier to handle with just the way,
right.
I don't know, it just, the overall sound. But yeah, that's a really good one.
All right, yeah, well, let's see what you have at your number 4.
All right, so my number 4, I have Find Another Reasons, also from Revival.
Clear out my eyes, spit out my lungs, scream it out, up and down seasons, going home.
So where do you have that one?
Well, Finding Your Reasons.
Find Another Reason.
Find Another Reason. Oh, sorry. I was trying to read it. I have it at 17.
Okay, nice. So I like the emotion that kind of comes through the singing from Judah and the Lion, like as a whole. And again, we're gonna keep coming back to like their like the loudness or whatever. Like, but again, this is another one of those that I think it comes through really well, and there's a good contrast, and that is what kind of stood out to me. And again, a through line with this whole album is that it's a little brighter sounding. But you have the contrast of like softer music, as well with the like excited or like empathetic or something. The vocals just come across like you can hear the emotion in the vocals.
Yeah, for sure.
there's a good like fluctuation and the music and energy that just comes through, and I find it very satisfying to listen to.
Take some time, clear my mind, find another reason why. Take some time, clear my mind.
Yeah, it does have. I like his voice. A little bit more toned down in some parts of it. That it's just really just more calming than some of it. Because sometimes he's just like loud and aggressive. So that's a really good one. That I do like it. I mean, I had it at 17, but I had, for the record, I had 33 songs on my liked and favorites list. So a total of 33 songs listed out, and so that was 17. So halfway through them.
Nice, yeah. So what do you got at your number 4?
This one I'm going to be really interested to see where we have, because either you'd never heard of this song or you have it pretty high, but it is Take a Walk from the album Revival from 2022.
All of my friends are a mess, just trying to make sense of how to live in a world I can be so depressed. Round and round we go.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Not on my top 15.
Yeah.
I don't think.
So this song's a lot more toned down than my first one, and it's definitely a softer song, but it's one that I really enjoy. The message of the song is somewhat similar to Scream, like my first song that I had, about being depressed, about the little things. But what I really love about the song, like my first song, is the chorus. It's just really good. It has kind of like an echoing sound that are just really nice. And the song's just trying to be about being happy again.
Yeah, that part is very satisfying.
It's really good, isn't it? Yeah. I love that. Like for my first song, number 5, and the song, both when you go back to edit this, Brendon, put the chorus over it, because I think it's really good. It's kind of what makes the song.
So let's go take a walk downtown and act like we're the heroes that we dreamed we'd be when we were young.
The rest of it's good. I like the song, but yeah, I just found myself just kind of just listening to it and be like, their songs are weird because they're kind of high energy, but they make you think, especially where my head's been at recently, just kind of like, thinking about some of that stuff with life. And it's just like, I don't know. It just kind of had me thinking just like, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And I thought that was really good. So yeah. And my next song I'm not going to say what it is now, but yeah, it has a similar theme as these last two, which is just kind of, really, really ones that I enjoyed, especially for the choruses.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that plays off of like probably both of my previous songs, and maybe that whole album is
right.
Why, like, just what are we doing? Who are we? All of that. But
and they're just kind of questioning. Yeah. And I'm gonna save it. I have a bit for it, but I'm gonna save it for the next song. So just go ahead to your number 3.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. My number 3. What's going on here? Happy Life from Revival.
10 years down the drain, good things go away, but it's hard to feel like this.
Happy
so
Life.
I'm keeping with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see.
I have that
at
20. I have that at 20.
20. Okay. Yeah, I could see that one. I threw this around a little bit at first, because I actually don't love the opening of this song. I think it's a bit overstated and kind of synthetic sounding or something. Like it doesn't sound as natural or as good. But I really like the chorus. There's a heavy use of the mandolin, combined with the lack of percussion through there. It just gives a much smoother sound. And we didn't really talk about it, I guess, that much yet. But like banjo and mandolin, like that's kind of the whole deal with this band. Like,
yeah.
That's what makes them sound so unique.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And yeah, I agree. The start of the song, I do not like it. It's just kind of like, it's almost egregious. Like it's not a part of that, like the sound of the song. And so it just seems a little bit abruptive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because usually like the opener of the song kind of sets the like tone. And I don't see, I mean, maybe the first couple times I heard it, but like on a repeat listen, like I'm just like, no, I've heard this enough times. And it's kind of,
listening to it, when you're listening to a song over and over again, trying to figure out where you want to place it, and you keep hearing that, it does definitely have like a detrimental effect on your mind. It's just like, wait, I do like the song, but the beginning is really annoying type thing.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, with that, like being a little smoother sounding once you kind of get into the song, there's still like, again, I think it's like the mandolin that's being played, but there's still like an energy, and you can feel like the whole rhythm of the song underneath it, even while it's just that. And then you come back at the end of the chorus and you get all the percussion comes back and stuff.
But if this happens to reach you, this is all of you. I hope you find your happy life.
And it's just, the verses are pretty solid too. And like, I don't mind, there's some like digital sounds and elements and stuff throughout the verses, which I don't mind. It's just that, that opening sound that it comes in a couple different times, but it just, I kind of find it kind of annoying.
For sure.
But that just shows, how much I actually like the rest of the song, that I tolerate that. But I'm almost surprised it was actually on your, on your liked list, because I thought this one could be a little too either mainstream sounding or, like with that sound kind of put it off for you. But that's cool.
It is,
was on there.
but it does kind of just sound like one of their songs though, and it's just kind of like their style. And then once you accept that their style's fine, it just kind of like, oh, they're all kind of the same, so it kind of just blurred together a little bit. Like that's why it wasn't on my favorites, or not even close to my favorites. But it's one of the songs that just kind of blends in. I'm like, oh, this is a nice song. It's not a bad song. And even that, so the beginning of it, even how bad it is, it does catch your attention more, so you know the song better from that, if that makes sense. Like it's not, you definitely know when it's playing, because it's like, well, that's quite a start to the song. But so kicking to my number 3. This is another one I'm very curious to see where you have it, but I have at my number 3, All Right, from the album Pep Talk from 2019.
Brother called me on the phone saying I'm done with it all. Safe to say I'm done with it all too. Trying to right all these wrongs never seems so impossible. It's clear to me we're scared.
Okay, not on my list. I'll have to go listen to that one. I know, Pep Talks was solid.
Yeah, this song is similar to the first 3 I was saying, and it has like a kind of a depressing story lesson, and this one kind of follows suits with it. It's like, basically, we're going to be all right. This is the bit I was going to say for the first 2 songs, but I saved it for now. I'm starting to think that Judah and the Lion just needs to find some Jesus in their lives, because I feel like they're just kind of lost and need some love. But the song just has great energy.
Do you know that that Judah Akers, or is it Ankers? Whatever his last name is. Anyway,
Akers, yeah.
He does his own self-titled music that's Christian music.
Oh, really? Interesting. Well,
yeah,
and
I
that's
didn't
what
actually
I'm trying
listen to that any of it, but I'd seen that.
So I just don't know if they're trying to appeal to like an audience that is lost. Like maybe that is what it is. Like, so take an example, and this is a side tangent that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on, but like take the artist NF, who is like, I think he's a Christian rapper. He's a Christian himself, but a lot of his music is just kind of depressing and like kind of just like talking about like all the bad stuff. So I kind of like, I think with Judah and the Lion, I don't think that's what they're going for, like with NF, the rapper, but a little bit of them, it's just like, I think people can find, who are lost, can find that message that like, they're like, this is sucks, and like what else is out there. And I think that's where, a good redemption story of like Jesus saving you could come in, but and maybe that's what they're trying for. I don't know.
And I don't know. I think what you also might be hearing some is, I don't quite know how to place it, because this is one of the few bands that sounds like this, but I got a feeling from like listening to Pep Talks and stuff that I don't know if it's a hip hop influence. I couldn't tell you what the styles are, or what the sound is, but it's not a sound that I like don't really listen to, it comes from a different like genre of music, and I think that also might be affecting kind of what their style is.
Yeah.
And there's something with like Pep Talks having the album cover of it being like a basketball court, and I think Judah Akers was played basketball or something in college or whatever. And so anyway, like there's some like referencing or feel that comes from that world, and that comes through their music. And I don't really, since I have not really something I'm interested in, I don't quite know what to place it to, but I think that is definitely like influencing their overall style, even though they're in like the alternative folk like genre.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's what it is. And honestly, like this song it's just that's kind of a side tangent. But yeah, it's a good song. It just the chorus is like we're gonna be all right, and then it has that, which is great. It's a great song. It's actually one of these songs that I've actually had since this album has only been out for 3 years, but one that I actually liked from this album. It's kind of like the only one I really loved from this album. But yeah, just a good song.
Gonna be alright.
Let's kick it to number 2.
And I had actually, once I re-listened to that for a second, I was like, oh yeah, this one. I had actually put that one into my top 15 like late this week, and then was like, no, it doesn't quite. Like wasn't in my top 15, and then I was like, maybe I should put this up there, and then I ended the end just booted it out. But anyway, interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind of curious. So I think. Go for it. I don't know. I was gonna tell you what your number 2 is, but go ahead. I'm not gonna guess. Even though I want to. Can I guess?
Do you want to guess?
It's going to be Suit and Jacket at your number 2?
That is incorrect.
Oh, okay. What do you have at number 2?
So, my number 2 is Stockholm.
I just got to Stockholm, and I'm walking on the stones. It's the middle of July, and I don't know if I'll ever make it home.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Is this the one you thought was number 6, or that is on your number 6?
We'll have to find out.
Or is this? Oh, okay. This is
We're gonna have to find out.
One. Nice. So I have found it interesting that this band dedicated a whole song to Stockholm, Sweden.
Right. I mean, have you been? It's a great place.
Have you been?
I spent a week there.
Right?
I spent a week there.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll save talking about that because I have a feeling that the song is
Who knows?
Is up there with
I
you.
don't know.
Okay.
I guess maybe. Who
Yeah.
knows?
So I'll power on here. So I don't actually quite know what their connection was. I think I'd seen something about them playing either there or were on tour and were there or something maybe earlier on in their career. So I don't know if it had some influence, but the whole vibe of the song kind of gives me feelings of like my best times traveling. And I think if this is on your list, you'll definitely relate to this.
100%.
But like my best times traveling in Europe through the summer, and they mentioned summer and stuff like in this, and there's those days where you're traveling and you're like, I'm just enjoying this so much, like enjoying like culture and food, and like you're like an ocean away from your home, just hanging out with your friends, and you're like, I don't want this to end. And this definitely gives me those feelings. And it's a song that doesn't get old. It has a very unique sound.
Yeah.
I think the banjo in this one does the heavy lifting, which we found out.
Is it banjo or mandolin? I think it actually might be mandolin.
I think this one's banjo.
Okay, because I know
because the picking sound is banjo.
Right, I know they do mandolin because I was trying to figure that out on some of their songs too. Because I know Brian McDonald, he does the mandolin, but I'm also assuming because they do have the banjo on some of their stuff. That I'm assuming he also does the banjo on some of their songs as well, and this might be one of them.
Yeah, they definitely use both.
Right.
The mandolin, if I am hearing it correctly, I think like would remind me something more of like a ukulele or something, and you'll hear more strum patterns, and the banjo will have more like distinctive picking and that like unique banjo sound. So I'm going to say it's a banjo. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was a banjo in this one. That is like kind of the constant, even though I think the mandolin's definitely there. But it has like, it's a good mix of sound, and yeah, you kind of the picking of the mandolin or the banjo that like goes in and out from like the rest of the music, and it just sounds very unique, flows well, and is a super solid song.
Yeah. I love the way you worded that about traveling and just those feelings that you get. I'm not going to say more because regardless if this song is in my top 2 or it's my 6 through 10, I do want to talk about it. So I'm not going to tell you where it's at. It's either my top 2 or my top 10. But I'm not going to talk about it now because I want to talk about it because we're going to talk about it a little bit later, regardless of where it's at. So I'm going to keep you a little bit on edge because I don't want you to know what my top 2 is, but it could also be in my top 10. But I do want to talk about it. So without further ado, I think you worded that very beautifully, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. We're going to kick it to my number 2. At my number 2, we have Take It All Back 2.0 from the album Folk Hop and Roll from 2016.
Hey, my life is real great. Feel I'm well on my way to my dreams coming true, and I'm getting to do it with you.
Okay. Yep. That one's let me check here. That one is on my top 15. I know that.
Oh, really? I thought you were gonna have. Okay, then I think I know where your top one is then.
Oh, did you think that? What? You thought that was one of my top ones?
I feel like this is one of the more classic songs, and it just starts out with great energy that I really enjoy. The song features a strong mandolin, which is very similar sound to the banjo, which I love so much. If you've been on this podcast before, you know my love for the sound of the banjo and the mandolin. Just such a great sound. I love it so much. Combine that with the high energy, and it's just a great song I really enjoy. This is one of their more classic songs that I kind of started liking. This one and another song, which I'll talk about later.
Okay.
But yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. Just from the just like the I don't know what it is, man. It's just a great song. So, yeah, where did you have this one listed at?
It was my number 9, and I'll just say like my short on this one. The reason I didn't really put any higher than that is it's just a little noisy.
Yeah, it is.
As well as not being
distinctive
enough.
It's a little whiny too, honestly. A little bit whiny.
Yeah, and we'll save that. I have some more things I could say, but anyway.
Well,
it's a solid one.
I'm curious who you have at your number 1. I think it might be Suit and Jacket, but let's hear it. What do you have at your number 1?
Yeah. So I thought either Stockholm or this song would have been one of the two, and then I wasn't sure which one. Maybe you would have put it number 6, but number 1, Suit and Jacket. From Folk Hop and Roll.
I ain't trading my youth for no suit and jacket.
Okay.
It's very classic song for me. It's very distinctive, and beyond being my favorite song from them, I think it's also just a great alternative rock song. I think like it really shows kind of the best of Judah Anker's voice, which I think can kind of be lost sometimes in the music, and like the rest of their music, and it might just be some of how he does his vocals. And like everything with this song is just like super solid. It has like a really good up and down and flow through the verses and chorus. And I like, the heaviness that is in here too. Like it's just, very distinctly alternative and stuff. There's really good energy, that you can like, feel in the music. And I think it's, again, from them, it's something that really stands out is like the emotion and kind of the heart that's in their singing. And I thought this one really showed it well. And you have this song getting to like, I was earlier in their time as a group, and it speaks of like youth and not just wanting to be another suit and a jacket, like be another person wearing a suit and a jacket and stuff, and like, dealing with how quickly time passes and you see, other people, growing up and, picking their life paths, and like you feel like, life is infinite and like has all the possibilities, and at the same time, you just want some time to like slow down and think and try to process it all. And I think that's, that's the undertone of this song. Wow. Yeah. Being a great sounding song.
Everybody I know is growing up too quickly, and I don't want to go. No, how am I supposed
So, where did you have this, or is this your number 1?
Great questions. I'm going to reveal all to you now. So basically,
just quick. I think Suit and Jacket is number 6 and Stockholm is number 1, but I'll let you talk now.
Great choice, because that's correct. Yeah. So basically, what I said at the beginning of the show, whereas I think my number 6 is going to be your number 1, and it was Suit and Jacket is my number 6. Stockholm is my number 1, from the album Folk Hop in 2016. So here's why. Suit and Jacket's always been a really good song, probably one of my favorites from that album, but it just kind of got overplayed because that's like the only one I really had from them. So going into this episode, I thought you were going to have Suit and Jacket at number 1, Take It All Back at number 2, and not have Stockholm. So Stockholm was actually the only one we had in common, and that was the surprise. So I'm going to go into, we'll get to them. But yeah, Stockholm, I love the way you worded that, Brendon, so much, because that's exactly what I had written down. Basically, this Stockholm has a special place in my heart. That's why I put it my number one. The whole song. So for context, me and my 3 friends went to Stockholm, Sweden to sail the Baltic Sea. So we sailed from Stockholm, Sweden down to the island of Gotland. Sailed around for an entire week. We sailed the country for a whole week. And literally, like, they have a line in there, biking to the water, and we're going sailing to the coast. And it's literally what we did. We biked down to the water, went sailing on the coast. And so lines like that just make me really recall those memories.
Into the water, and we're sailing to the coast. It's late at night, but the sun still shines. Never going home.
The whole song just kind of fills you with those, like, traveling vibes, and you were even talking about it, and you haven't been to Sweden, and you got that vibe, which is exactly what I was getting. It's just a really great song, and every time I listen to it, I can just think of those memories, because it's like they have a line in the song like "the sun never sets," and the song was talking about in June or in July. We were there in June, middle of June, and it was wild because we were out sailing in the middle of the Baltic Sea throughout the entire night. It was always light to a certain degree. Like it basically got completely black, but there was still red on the sunlight because we were sailing all night. We were up, like 24 hours that day. And it was like 2 a.m, but as the sun just ever so set, it's basically completely black, but there's still that red glow from the side there, and it got light again. Like it never got completely dark. You could always see. And it was just stuff like that just makes me reminisce. And that was 6 months ago. It happened in June of 2022, and it just such a great fitting song. And for them to dedicate a song to a city, Stockholm was one of my favorite cities I've ever been to, and so I can see it. It's great. So that's a special place in my heart, and that's why it gets to my number one. I'm not an emotional listener, but this one has a place in my heart. That's why I put it number one.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm very glad it's at number one for you, because listening to it today, I was just like trying to put like words to like what does a song actually make me feel, and I'm like
right.
like even though I'm not always listening to the lyrics, or I don't really have any ties to Stockholm, like, and I didn't even remember it about I remember that you had told me this, but I'd forgotten that there's like there's no sunset in the summer, or like there's no night in the summer, so like you just have this sunset that like comes and goes or whatever. But it like still like the meaning comes across still, and you still have that it's any it could be for anywhere in the world. It's just kind of gets to that idea of leaving where you came from, going somewhere completely new, but then feeling so at home or at peace with the place that you've gone to, and how like crazy of an experience that is. So that's super cool, and I'm glad that ended up being your last one that we got to talk about.
If you need me, you know where I'll be. If you need me.
Well, I'm glad that's the only one we had in common. So we did have one, and we were both correct. But let's kick it to our 6 through 15 lists, and I'll let you go first, and with your list, and I'll go after that.
All right, so the rest of my list, I have Blue Eyes at 6. Okay. Why Did You Run? Let Go, and kind of all of those right there were all ones that were a little bit in contention for number 5. And then we have Queen's Song / Human.
That's a good one.
Take It All Back 2.0. Rich Kids.
That's a good one.
I enjoyed that one. And that's the song name. I'm not just saying that. Over My Head. And then I did include this from their EP. I have Hesitate.
Okay.
Which I could have swapped out with another one, but I thought it was kind of cool to have one of those in there. And then Hold On is my last one.
We had a couple line up there, but my list is number 6 was Suit and Jacket. Number 7, I really like the song, with 7000X. That's a really good one. Number 8, Passion Fashion. I really like that song. Number 9 was Dance With Ya. 10 was Joyboy. I really like that one. 11, kind of a more high energy song, was Quarter Life Crisis. 12 was Pictures, more of a good song there. 13 was Conversations. 14 was I'm Okay, and number 15 was Over My Head. So some line up there, not a whole lot. So it is interesting. Yeah. Our top 15, we maybe had 5. Actually, there's only like 3 or 4 that really aligned with our top 15.
I was surprised the rest of yours. Yeah, very few. I mean,
and that's just kind of typical. Okay. I'm discovering between you and me, we both are very much different. Even though we like the same artist, we like different songs from the artist, which is kind of intriguing because a lot of our artists that you and me listen to line up, but just different songs.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, if either one of us just played a song, was like, oh, this is a song I really like, the other person would be like, oh, yeah, I really like that song too. But if you put it down to us, make a list, it tends to be fairly different. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting.
So cool. Well, we have everything kind of wrapped up. So we're going to go to takeaways, and then we're going to kick it to our next artist, which is going to be a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of a jolt for next artist, which I'm excited to talk about. But yeah, let's go to takeaways and just kind of general takeaways from the whole artist. And I'll let you go first, Brendon, and I'll kind of wrap it up with my takeaways and then introduce the next artist.
Yeah, so something I want to talk about a little just before we do this is I just mentioned that I thought of something when we were talking about our top 5 still, and I didn't want to mention it there. But we did not talk about Judah's vocals that much. What do you think of the vocals of the overall sound? Because we briefly talked about it in kind of the noisiness that can be the sound, and that being like cool and it being loud and stuff, but also sometimes just not sounding super clear. Right. And I'd just be interested to see what your thoughts on their vocals are.
That is a great question, because if you would go back through our last probably 8 or 9, 10 episodes, I think in every single one of those episodes we talk either a little or heavily about the artist's voice. This is the first artist we haven't really talked about that at all, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it for Suit and Jacket, and when I was figuring out what I thought of that song, I was like, oh, that's kind of one of the things that stands out, is I actually think the vocals do sound a little better in that song, because I don't know if it's that you just get a chance to hear them, or if it's with his singing style or the whole group style that they aren't. I don't even know how to describe it, but I don't think this band is as distinctive with. At least, I don't know. Okay. This band, the vocals are distinctive to the band, but the vocals aren't what makes the band stand out as being really good.
Right. And I think if I'm trying to think of it, if for the artist Keen, we did the artist Keen, and you just be like, well, what makes his music special? Well, it's not the music or anything. It's kind of just all bland, but his voice really stands out. With Judah and the Lion, it's like, well, what makes them stand out? Well, they're crazy, over-the-top, wild songs that are just really loud and aggressive. Not really their voice. And I think to answer your question, Brendon, that's really what it is. It's like, the reason I never mention it is because what makes them stand out to me is not, Judah's voice, it's their loudness. And so that's why you don't really get a chance to see his vocal range. I mean, he has high vocal range, but it's not like something that's portrayed in a way that you can appreciate it in a nice way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of interested. I'd have to, listen to these songs all over again and look specifically for it. But I don't think there's often a spot where you really get to see him exercise his voice and have that unique song where, I always think of Little Green Cars or something where you had two singers who both had distinctive voices and both had really good voices, and both voices got to shine a lot. I think the music then not suffered, but it wasn't, quite as crazy, but the vocals were super stand out. And here, I don't know that it's any one thing that makes them stand out. I think they have solid parts to everything, as far as music and vocals and overall sound and pacing, whatever you want to say. But I think, because they're unique, that's kind of what makes them interesting. But yeah, it was just surprising to me that I was like, I really his voice, it's solid, but it's not a huge standout. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great thing, and I think we can just transition that into your takeaway there. Besides that, is there any major takeaways that you kind of had from the band from them?
No, I guess I kind of did just say what my
overall, let's talk a little bit about it, but that's actually my takeaway, and I think that's really good. One of the things I had to kind of and I'll kind of just wrap it up here, unless you wanted to add anything else there, but just cut it if you want to add anything.
Go for it.
Very unique band that features steady, good songs that are aggressive at times. Is kind of the way I would sum up. They have some good hit classics, but overall, they're not my favorite band. I definitely do enjoy listening to them from time to time. And like I said, Stockholm's, it's one of the songs I really love. But yeah, their albums are kind of all over the place, not a really clear direction of what they're going to go in the future. So I'm dying to see in 3 years from now when they come out a new album what it's going to be like. You don't know. With artists, they definitely have more of a direction they go, and you can kind of see where they're going. no one's gonna know what they're coming out in 3 years. It could be like Kids These Days, like an album from the original, or it could be like Pep Talks and Me, Loud and Aggressive again. You just don't know.
All acoustic. Just banjo picking and
oh, hey, I would
mandolin.
listen to that. That would be wonderful.
I'd take some.
Overall, I'm gonna go back to what I said in the beginning. I think they're a folk version of AJR. I think that's actually a pretty good way to sum them up. I struggled to get through them. I actually didn't enjoy them as much as I thought I would. But yeah, you always gain a better appreciation when you go through the studying of an artist's music. And while they might not be my favorite artist, I do have an appreciation of their music for sure. So yeah, really enjoyed that. Looking forward to our next artist. So I'm going to preface this by saying we're going a little bit out of left field to rock music. And borderline screamo at times. We are going to go with Starset. Going to be an interesting artist. Brendon and me both really love Starset. We've been listening to them for years, especially with their new album that came out last year or this year. I forget what year it came out. Really interesting band. They're not alternative. They're not. I think it came out. Yeah, I do think it came out last year. They're not an alternative band. We're going to say that up front, but one of the bands that we really enjoy and thought we'd bring them on. We've had them on the list for a while. So yeah, we're going to be switching things up a little bit before we bring it back down to earth with some different music in about 6 weeks from now. So yeah, stay tuned for Starset next time. Thanks for listening.